What are .NET workloads and why do you care? Let me show you why it's so important, especially if you're running WSL and doing all your development in Visual Studio Code, that you become familiar with .NET workloads. What Microsoft has essentially done is they've taken the SDK and kind of split it up in chunks so that when you install just the SDK, you're not getting everything, but you're getting just the key components. But let's say, for example, we wanted to create a MAUI application. If we were to just do .NET new and then list, and we list the available templates we have to us, you can see that we don't see a MAUI application here. So what happens? Well, this is where workloads comes into play. If we do .NET workload search MAUI, we can see that we have these available workloads. And if we install the MAUI for Windows workflow, because let's say that's what we want to develop for, as sudo, because we're running in Linux, of course, it's going to install this workload for us, and it's going to install all the necessary packages we need to utilize this workflow. But once that's complete, it does something even cooler for us, is it updates our templates. So if we run that same new list command, you're going to see now that it's a little bit longer, and it includes MAUI applications for us. So we have all of those available to us. So now we could do new MAUI for a new .NET MAUI app. And so that's essentially the functionality that workloads gives, just in case you've run .NET info and you happen to come to this workloads section here and you're like, usually it'd say no workloads installed, and you're like, what in the world is going on? That's what's going on. Another thing that's good to note with workloads is you can do .NET workloads or workload update. This will look for the available workloads that you have, what's installed, and what the latest versions are out there, and then it'll update all those workloads. So just wanted to talk about that for just a minute, because as we're developing in Linux and using Visual Studio Code, workloads is something that we want to be familiar with. If you were developing in Visual Studio, this is how it's handled in Visual Studio, and you may not have ever noticed that they're called workloads, but this is what they're doing in Visual Studio, and you just select the workloads that you want, and then that gives you additional functionality. You can develop with different templates and for different OSs and different project types and things like that. So this is kind of the way they're going to break up the .NET SDK, so it's not such a huge download. You know, just if you were developing a Visual Studio, now you're going over to WSL because you want to be utilizing Docker, and so now you're using a little more VS Code, and you're thinking, man, where are those templates that I relied on or was looking for? Those templates were installed based on you selecting these workloads, but we can do the same in VS Code this way. And then if you have a workload that you no longer need and you want that space back, you just uninstall it. If you spell uninstall correctly, you uninstall it. And if you select the appropriate workload. So, I mean, sometimes you have to just type the right command in, and that's the only problem. Anyway, so now just to show you, if I was to go sudo .NET new list, you can see that those MAUI templates are now gone, not available to me anymore. So this is a brief overview of what workloads are, and I just wanted to talk about that before we get into the project further. See you in the next one.